Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, viewers. Welcome to another edition of Legal Ease, where we try to make the law easy for you. Tonight, we're going to be talking about coaching for personal development. My guest this evening is a professional coach, Mr. Khalid Vauda, Mohammed Khalid Vauda, who's a professional coach. Mohammed, Jazakallah for making yourself available. Jazakallah for coming on the show. Can you start by just giving us a bit of background about yourself and then telling us what is coaching and what does it entail?
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for having me on the show. Briefly, my coaching journey began about 4 years ago. I think I was at an early midlife crisis, if I could call it that. And I was looking at alternative ways of branching out to be able to do something that's more fulfilling. I think a lot of us can resonate with that, where we either sitting behind a desk or doing some type of job where we have to for the sake of working, but not really feeling the worth and the value of the job. And so I started looking into avenues of developing myself further. I had the good fortune of attending an Islamic personal development course by Sheikh Issam Rajab. And that course sent me back home with a lot to think about. So my journey began then, and I started exploring coaching. Obviously, from an Islamic perspective, I looked at what was available, the types of courses, the types of institutions, a lot of research, and I decided then to enroll with an institute that's based in Cape Town. And the process of studying and accreditation began then.
We normally think of coaching, sports coaching, coaching soccer players, coaching cricket players, tennis players, whatever the case may be. But this, you're coaching individuals, or you're coaching groups, and it could be an executive, it could be an individual who's busy developing in a career, it could be somebody who's not sure where he's going. Can you tell us a bit about that? How does it work? What does it entail? Do you do it on a one-to-one basis? Is it a group thing? Or can it be a combination?
There's actually everything of what you said is now become a speciality in coaching. So my speciality is personal development. So I work one-on-one with clients. You've got other disciplines of coaching which deal with the corporate environment, executive coaching, where people will deal with companies and management only, or they'll deal with staff. Ultimately, what coaching does is coaching wants people to excel in whatever they're doing. So whether it's a coaching discipline that focuses on the executive, whether it's a coaching discipline that focuses on an individual, whether it's a coaching discipline that focuses on somebody's health or a particular sport, nutrition, there's various disciplines of coaching that are now emerging from something that actually began in sports.
Look, in the workplace, we normally think of mentoring, but this obviously is different to me. Mentoring, you'll tell the person, do this, do that, you're not doing this correct. Coaching works differently.
Coaching does. There is an element of mentoring. One of the core philosophies of coaching is that the solution lies within the person. And the coach's job is to creatively get the client to realize the solution within themselves. So in mentoring, it's more you pass on your advice, your experiences, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what might be a better option. In coaching, you guide the client to find their own solutions and answers.
And you draw on the experience of the client themselves as well.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Look, very important for this particular program, for us, because it's a legal program, we obviously need to look at what the law says, regulation. Now, some countries obviously regulated more than others. To what extent is it regulated in South Africa? Are there laws governing it? Is there regulation? Or is it like, an association and they govern themselves? Because that happens sometimes.
That's a good question. In South Africa, as with most countries around the world, coaching is not a regulated industry. So this can be a double-edged sword, because the plus side of this is somebody who has really good individual skills and they're good people, they have good skills in dealing with people. They don't really need to go through an educational process where they need a certain degree to be able to work with people. They need to hone certain skills in coaching, and then they can move into coaching. The flip side and the downside of that is anybody can hang up a plaque on their door saying, I'm a life coach. Right. And, without the necessary skills, they can really take people in the wrong direction. So it needs to be viewed very carefully. Within South Africa, we're fortunate in that we've got an institution called COMENSA, the Coaching and Mentoring Association of South Africa. And this body has been founded by some of the leading organizations in the country to determine a set of standards by which coaching should be carried out, by which institutions should carry out or conduct certain training programs in order for people to pass through as coaches.
Okay, so this organization, they will in fact regulate the industry. They will determine what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. Is that how it works?
They provide guidelines.
Right.
So for example, New Insights, the organization that I did the training with, they base their training on a lot of the requirements that COMENSA has set up. COMENSA doesn't have a legal jurisdiction in that if somebody starts practicing coaching, COMENSA cannot say you're not practicing according to what is law in the country and therefore we're taking you to court. It won't work that way. It's up to organizations and those who choose to go through institutions to accredit themselves with what is correct practice and what is beneficial ultimately to the clients.
But the organization will obviously have a code of ethics.
Yes.
And if you're a coach linked to that organization, then you have to abide by that code of ethics.
So this is something crucial that clients would need to look out for when hiring coaches is the coach accredited?
Right.
By who are they accredited? The institution that they studied with, who accredited the institution?
Okay.
And is there a code of ethics? This is very important. There has to be a code of ethics that the coach abides by, which places the client first. It's not just some coaches can just get into it for, it's a lucrative industry.
Right.
In the US, coaching is $1 billion industry.
Okay.
So people can get into it for the money, and you get what we call celebrity coaches. You know, people who walk the rock star life in terms of coaching, looking good, speaking nicely, and all of these things, and people fall for that.
Right.
These are one of the things we warned about when we undergo training. Do not become a coach like that. Give a good service to your client. Help your client to become empowered, to be able to make good choices.
Yeah, now, we read stories of coaches in the United States where they earn about $1 million a year.
Yeah, there's quite a few. And some of them, in fact, I've done a lot of homework into some of their work, and some of their work is extremely beneficial. So, for example, Tony Robbins, leading figure. I mean, he's worked with politicians, he's worked with heads of state, he's worked with celebrities, he's worked with people who own multi-million-dollar companies on Wall Street, almost everyone. So his formula works. The important thing in a coaching relationship is there has to be a fit between the client and coach. So not every client and coach is going to fit like, a hand into a glove. This is normally, we determine this in the first session, whether myself and the client are actually a fit. The client as well has a lot of work to do in my coaching program. So it's not going to be, it's not a magic wand.
Yeah.
So you come in for coaching, you pay extraordinary fees and I wave a magic wand and you transform magically overnight. No, it's not going to work like that. The client's got to do some work. Through the working process, the client realizes certain important things about themselves.
Okay, so you would assess the client, similarly the client would assess you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But again, I need to come back to this regulation. If a client is unhappy, you belong to this institution where you're on the panel of this institution. If they're unhappy, if you, as a coach, do something perhaps unethical, they can turn to the institute and say, this guy is doing it. They will then probably take disciplinary action against the coach. Maybe, give a warning or coach the coach.
Yeah.
And if it happens again, takes the coach off the panel so that the person is not accredited by this institution.
Yeah, absolutely. So it would be important for clients to look out for the accreditation of the coach. So if I'm accredited with, or if I'm a member of COMENSA, and I do something unethical. So in my first session, we go through, there's a legal contract that I've drawn up, which the client and myself both abide by. And at any point, if I go back on that, the client has all the right to take this up with COMENSA or with New Insights who've accredited me, and I could lose my certification with that particular organization.
Okay, because they put you through the training, they give you the certification, they then say, okay, you are let loose, go and do your work.
Yeah.
But these are the guidelines, these are the ethical guidelines.
Yeah.
There's no law governing it, but we've got regulations.
Which is why one of the key elements of becoming a coach is you need to have a strong ethical disposition. So it's not just about, you need to have a passion for people, firstly. You need to have a strong ethical disposition in that you treat ethics seriously, you treat the rights of others seriously. And obviously you want to help people to achieve change, to make positive progress in their lives. So these are some of the key attributes that's required for a person to be a coach.
Typically, what type of a person would come to you and say, I need to be coached? Maybe you've got examples of somebody that you did coach.
All types.
Yeah.
All types, actually. I've worked with doctors, I've worked with engineers, I've worked with teachers, I've worked with housewives, I've worked with unemployed people, I've worked with budding authors, marketers. Coaching is for everyone. Anybody who feels that they want to take their life to the next level, or they feel that they've got more within them, or they feel that they're stuck in a rut and they know they can do better, they just don't know how to get out of that certain rut that they're in. So for all of these, coaching works, and it works very, very effectively.
Okay, and then clearly, there is a role for coaching for Muslims as well. It's not something that is un-Islamic. Muslims can clearly make use of coaching as well.
Absolutely. There could be a bit of a fear, and I can understand where this stems from, because there could be a fear of coaching in that some of the philosophies that certain coaches employ, non-Muslim coaches, would draw on Eastern spirituality. So it might have its roots in ancient China or in India. So there's an element of shirk associated with that. And Muslims need to tread carefully, which is why they need to look at Muslim coaches, which there is a shortage of, unfortunately. It's growing in South Africa. Internationally, some of the bigger names, I think everyone's familiar with Yaour Baig. And then you've got Muhammad Al-Sharif, who runs a coaching institution in Canada as well. It's important to see your coach's background. And again, even some non-Muslim coaches, they wouldn't necessarily draw on everything un-Islamic. But to be safe as a Muslim, if you're looking for a coach, the advice would be to go for a Muslim coach, because they understand where you're coming from. They understand that there can't be any transgression of the Quran and Sunnah in whatever you do. Very importantly for myself, the material that I've been through and what I've studied, I've kept an eye out for anything that would go against the Quran and Sunnah. In fact, I found the opposite. The roots of coaching, philosophy of coaching, that changes within yourself resonates for me within the Quran. When Allah says, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. So in order to effect change on society, you need to start with yourself. And once you make that effort, that initial effort to make change within yourself, then this is the beginning of a bigger process.
Okay, can we take a short break there?
Sure.
We'll go for an ad break. Viewers, please stay tuned. After the ad break, we'll continue with a very interesting topic. Assalamu alaikum again. Welcome back. We're talking to Muhammad Khalid Bauda, a life coach, experienced life coach. He's telling us about coaching. Just before the break, we were talking about coaching for Muslims. Okay, you were still talking about it when I stopped you because of the short break we needed to take.
Another thing we learn from the prophetic teaching, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that a Muslim should always strive to improve, strive to become better, ultimately in your relation with Allah. With this improvement, coaching takes you through a process of self-development, self-awareness. It raises your understanding of yourself continuously. With this process, every single client that I've worked with, it's happened to me as well when I went through the training program as well. With this realization comes a deeper sense of gratitude, because then what you do is you realize and you are grateful to Allah for certain skills that He has blessed you with, certain traits, certain attributes that He has granted you, which you can make use of for the benefit of yourself and for others, your family, society at large. So as you improve your development, so your sense of gratitude grows, and this can only be a good thing.
Okay, because obviously you're grateful to the Almighty because you realize that what it is.
Can I just make one more point on that? It must obviously be stated as well that coaching in no way is there to replace any established practice within Islam. So what is established from Quran and Sunnah as being clear, coaching will never replace that. Coaching will not replace any particular ayah or any hadith in Islam. What coaching does, if it's used properly, is it can help people to focus better on their relation with Allah. So I've had clients, for example, who chose to work on spirituality in their lives, who chose to work on their faith. And they wanted to get certain practices going within their lives. And through the process of coaching, they've managed to get tahajjud regular, for example, or they've managed to be able to sit down and read Quran every day, or to be able to fast once or twice a week, depending on what it is that they wanted to achieve.
So it can enhance their life in that sense.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, now, we sometimes hear of other forms of, I don't want to use the word therapy because that tends to have a negative connotation. But how is coaching different from, and maybe I should use the word therapy, how is it different from other forms of therapy or assistance or, maybe therapy is the right.
Coaching and other forms of development, if I can call it
Okay.
that, there's a huge significant difference. So, for example, therapy will deal with mental health, and it'll deal with trauma cases. It will look at events in somebody's life, past events, and it will look to solutions for those, trying to deal with those. In coaching, the focus is on growth. So we look at where the client is now, and we look at how to move the client forward from where they are now, based on what the client chooses.
Right.
So a coach will never, and this is another key element people need to remember, is if a coach is telling you what to do, they're not coaching. Okay, a coach will guide you to come up with solutions yourself.
Okay, so the individual will determine its own goal, will determine its own aim, where it wants to be, perhaps in 5 years, where it wants to be in 10 years. And you as the coach will then assist the person to work out for themselves how to get there and how to
provide the support for that. Psychiatry, for example, is a specialized form of medicine, so it treats mental illness. Coaching is not a field of medicine, so we do not administer medication. We do not. We have clients, not patients, and people who we work with in coaching, the clients we work with, are of sound mental health. They don't have mental issues. So a question we get asked a lot, I get a lot of calls about this. Do you deal with people who are drug addicts? Do you deal with people who have alcohol issues? And the clear answer for that, if somebody has a need for a specific field of medicine, or they have a disorder, that needs to be treated first, and it's separate. It's something coaches will not do. If a coach attempts to do that, they are stepping outside of the bounds of what they're able to do, and this is completely unprofessional, and it's unethical. If a person has overcome addiction, if a person has beaten the drug habits that they've got, and now they want to move forward, a coach can gladly assist them in going forward.
Okay, here's a question, I'd like to ask, maybe I'm putting you on the spot, or maybe it's a bit of an unfair question. How would you do things differently to other coaches, perhaps? Or would you do it differently?
Yes, we do. I would do things differently. For one, the program that we run, it's a very holistic program. I've seen coaches offer packages where, within 3-4 sessions, they guarantee you change. I don't want to doubt the coaches, but I feel the program that we offer at Top Branch is a holistic program. So ours runs over a period of 6 months. I see a client once every 2 weeks. We have 13 sessions. Each session covers something new, but it builds on the session before it. And throughout this process, there's a gradual build-up of, in fact, it starts in the very first session. A lot of times, in fact, the last client that completed the program with me was one of the most skeptical clients I've had to deal with. And it was a challenge I relished, because that skepticism came from somewhere. It told me that there were certain things inside of her over time that developed, which didn't believe in things that could positively change for her. But she worked through the program. Full credit to her. She worked really hard throughout the program. And when we did her wrap-up session a few months ago, she was amazed at the change she made, because the exact things that she told me she's not going to do, she achieved every single target that she'd set for herself. And when she looked back at her journey, she was amazed at the journey that she made. But it's all progression.
And this program that you referring to, is it a one-on-one or do you do it with a group?
This is a one-on-one program.
Okay.
There's a lot of intimate information that clients would reveal, and therefore it's a confidential setting that it takes place in. So every client knows that they feel fully secure, they're safe, it's a confidential environment that they're in. We do delve into certain things in the client's past, but this is only to unravel certain beliefs that the clients developed over time and how these beliefs have affected them in their lives to this point. Every one of us is governed, you can call it an internal GPS, where a set of beliefs govern us in terms of our behavior and our attitudes towards how we view others, how we view the world around us. These beliefs are shaped over time, since we're kids, by our experiences, what we see, what we're told, what we hear, what we physically experienced, by certain things we've done in our lives, and they've had certain outcomes. So I might have attempted to write an exam at one point and I failed. So there's a belief that's set in about that. Or I've lost a loved one. So there's a belief that's developed about that. On a subconscious level, there's a protective element that goes on, and we don't even know about it. There's a supercomputer working inside of our brain. And this is the cognitive psychology part of it. Your brain automatically goes on forming beliefs and looking for references for those beliefs to support that belief. Because your brain is programmed to protect you from any types of pain, we're ultimately driven by two things on any base level as human beings. The need to achieve pleasure, to feel pleasure, or to avoid pain. Right. So those are two key things that drive us. Any issue in your life, if you bring it down to an aspect of, am I doing it for pleasure, or am I doing it to avoid pain? You will identify every single issue with that, even as Muslims. We do things for the pleasure of Allah, or we do things to avoid the punishment of Allah. So in the same vein, the subconscious then, if it's such a unique protective mechanism that Allah has put inside of us. If there's a perception that a certain event or a certain action could possibly bring about pain, you'll find yourself making an excuse about it automatically, and you'll find yourself avoiding that situation. So it even results in physical illness. So if I've got an absolute fear of interviews, for example, but I know I want to get ahead in my career, and I know I've got this crucial interview coming up, and in the week leading up to the interview, I start developing perspiration, my stomach starts going to knots, I can't eat, I develop a runny tummy. I might even actually get physically ill to the point where I miss the illness and I'm in the hospital because of that. That's how powerful this process is. So all of these types of things we unravel when we go through the coaching process.
Okay, one important thing you said, and maybe from a legal angle, that's something we can talk a bit about. You said you assure clients of confidentiality. Obviously, you need to, because they're going to reveal things to you that they don't want other people. But can you guarantee that confidentiality? I mean, it's like a newspaper reporter talking to somebody. They can then go to court and say, sorry, I can't reveal it, it was said to me in confidence. Or lawyer-client relationship, that's in confidence. But if this is merely regulated by an organization, there's no laws governing, can you still guarantee confidentiality? Because some people may be concerned about that.
And it's a valid concern.
Right.
This goes back again to the ethical disposition, and that's crucial. That coaches have to abide by. And again, here the emphasis being on being trained by an accredited institution, which focuses on ethics. So, just like doctors who sign the oath, the medical oath, there's a similar oath that coaches go through, and it's something that you have a natural disposition towards something like this, you know, where you would preserve a secret, you would preserve something that's entrusted to you. As a Muslim, that's an even bigger trust. So it's something that I personally can guarantee. I don't know whether every single coach can guarantee that. I do my absolute best to guarantee that with every single client.
Okay, because that's important, because if you don't, they can't sue you perhaps, or maybe they can, but that's probably another program for another legalese program, and maybe we can deal with that at a different level. But we can also look at the ethical part, because that's really what you're saying.
Absolutely.
From an ethical point of view, you will not violate.
No. You'd lose the trust of the client, and you'd lose the trust of it's an amana. As a Muslim, it's an amana that you carry. If somebody tells you something in confidence, it could be anything which someone might deem irrelevant.
Right.
You've got to carry that. That's an amana, that's a weight on your shoulder. So you've got a responsibility to the person who's entrusted you with that, and you've got a responsibility before Allah. Right. And you can't violate that.
Okay. And then, of course, there's the organization that you belong to. They ensure that you behave ethically because they've got, as you said, the code of conduct that you have to abide by.
Yeah. And the process that they put you through in order to gain your coaching certificate is not, for lack of a better word, it's not a fly-by-night operation where you pay a certain amount of money and within 2 days you become a coach. It doesn't work like that. I've had to go through a 2-year process. Right. And that involved lots of theory, but it also involved lots of actual practice coaching. So I did free sessions with a lot of people. There were a certain amount of hours I had to get under my belt before they would certify me. And each one of those, you've got to meet a certain level of acceptability before you can actually go.
So you get assessed on that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, perhaps an appropriate time to go for another ad break. Viewers, time for an ad break. Please stay tuned. We'll continue with this discussion after the break. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back again. We're busy talking about coaching, about personal development, and our guest this evening, Mohammed Khalid Vauda, a professional coach. We spoke about various aspects of coaching. Viewers, we usually at this time invite callers in, but unfortunately this evening we're having some technical difficulty with the phone lines, so we're not going to be able to take calls. If the phone gets done in time, we will then invite you to call in, unfortunately. So perhaps we'd have to call Mohammed Khalid in another day to come in and answer calls. We did speak about coaching in South Africa. You spoke a bit about how you got into it, but how did coaching develop?
Coaching is a relatively new phenomenon. It started taking root in the Western world around the 50s. So what happened was there was a mix of different types of thinking, a bit of Eastern spirituality, a mix of science, and a lot of self-reflection. This started taking root in matters such as health, in matters such as spirituality, and in matters such as love. This moved on, and it grew into something more specific to personal development in the United States. And what happened then was the development of institutes and organizations where people could go and actually develop themselves, attend self-development courses. One of the forefathers of sports coaching, which gave rise to coaching as it is today, one of the pioneers is a guy by the name of Timothy Galway. And he was a tennis coach, but he was also a teacher who had an interest in Eastern spirituality and in sports psychology. So he combined all of this. His ultimate aim was to make players more effective, tennis players more effective. And he authored a book which was kind of pioneered the art of coaching. It's called The Inner Game of Tennis in the 70s. And here he radically combined all of these elements in order to aid coaches to become better. He looked at tennis and he identified 2 opponents for a player. So you've got the outer opponent, the guy you're playing against, or the girl you're playing against, and you've got the inner opponent, which is fear, which is doubt. And these were the things he said must be conquered first before you can beat the outside opponent. Right. So this was used as a catalyst for all other coaches, and they took this and they developed it a lot further. And then you had this springing out and mushrooming into the different coaching disciplines. One of the first colleges was formed in the United States in the 70s by a guy by the name of Thomas Leonard. So these were one of the earliest accredited institutions. He formed in 1995 the International Coaching Federation, which is a famous federation worldwide. They train hundreds and hundreds of coaches every year. And since then, that movement, which started off quite small, has mushroomed and in fact it's spread into many Western countries. It's now moving into Muslim countries as well. And you've got leading coaches that people refer back to, like Tony Robbins, like Jim Rohn, like Wayne Dyer, Robin Sharma is one of them. And they all specialize in different fields of coaching now, because it's now becoming more specialized. You've got guys who are business coaches. You've got guys who are money coaches. You've got guys who are spiritual coaches. You've got guys who are here and now coaches. Mm. You know, so there's a whole lot of, there's relationship coaches, there's marriage coaches, there's development coaches, there's a whole lot of them going on. I even saw an
advertisement for coaching on nutrition, for example.
Yeah. So
it is very.
It's developing quite rapidly. It's still taking root in South Africa. In fact, in 2011, 2012, one of the highest ranking Google searches in South Africa was life coaching. Okay. So it's something that people are looking to, because people are looking to new ways of dealing with the challenges that they face in the 21st century. And coaching has provided that.
Okay, so from how to hold a tennis racket, so coaching the person behind the racket, not only how to hold the racket, but to be mentally prepared for that, it developed into other things. That's okay. Perhaps another question, and we've touched on it, but what can clients expect from coaching or from the coaching process? Let's assume somebody comes to you and say, I need to be coached. What can they expect?
So, like I mentioned, the program I run with clients runs over 13 sessions, right, over a period of 6 months. So what we do is we look at, in the very first session, we kind of set a direction. The client sets the direction, I guide the process. We look at a client's life in relation to 8 key areas which affect everybody. So you look at a person's personal development, you look at where a person is currently in terms of their marital relations, spousal relations, where they are in terms of their family life and their social life, where they are in terms of their career, in terms of their finance goals, in terms of their health goals, in terms of their spirituality goals, in terms of their emotion. All of these together, the client then determines where they are, and from here we start plotting a course. So we set some really, really amazing goals in the first session. And some clients, when they set the goal and they read through the goal, they actually stop and think, but I can't achieve this. So I tell them, just hang on. We'll undo this in the second session. We'll start breaking this down. So we chart the course in the first session, and then as we embark on the journey, we start uncovering different things. The backbone of the coaching program is the client's goal. That keeps us focused. But as we're doing that, we're uncovering, for example, the client's limiting beliefs. What the client believes about themselves, which may limit them in their career, which may limit them in their relations with their spouse, which may limit them in their relations with their family. The amazing thing with limiting beliefs is they kind of stack up like dominoes. Mm. So when you get to the root of the bottom limiting belief, and you knock that belief out, because we undo limiting beliefs, in order to move forward, a coach has to help the client to undo and eradicate and completely destroy those limiting beliefs. Once that's done, it's literally as though you can see clearer. And you see clients, you see that in their eyes, you know, that wow, it's a wow moment. There's lots of light bulb moments in coaching, and this is one of the pleasures you have as a coach. We also look at what beliefs the clients have about themselves, which are positive. We help clients to rebuild new beliefs and install new beliefs, because you can basically believe anything about yourself that you want to believe, and you will find a reference point in your life for that. So we help clients to find more reference points. Over time, we become more kind of negative, maybe because of the things we've developed over time. And because of the fear factor on a subconscious level, the mind wants to protect us. So we start developing references for limiting beliefs far quicker than we do for positive beliefs. And this slows us down. So that's why you find many people just going through the motions and they've given up. Maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s, at whatever age group. Some people in their 20s as well. They just feel like they've given up. They've got nothing more that they can offer. And it's because of these limiting beliefs have become convictions now. They're not beliefs anymore. And this is it's a sad, dangerous point for somebody, because everybody has potential within them. Everyone has certain types of potential and certain skill sets that Allah has blessed them with. And when you see somebody realize those, or begin to realize the potential, or just scratch the surface, it's amazing discoveries.
Okay, so you in fact help them realize that if you can think it, you can achieve it.
Absolutely. And we prove it. We don't just think it, we prove it. We prove it on pen and paper, through their lives. We prove to them that these negative perceptions that are of you are not actually from you. They've come from somewhere else.
And like you said at the beginning, it's not a magic wand. They have to work at it.
Absolutely.
You work at it with them, you ensure that they work at it, and it may be hard work at times.
There's homework to do between sessions, and they get penalized when they don't complete their homework. The homework is meant to reinforce what we've done in the session. And what happens is within the 2-week break between sessions, a lot of what we've discussed in the sessions, clients start seeing in front of them. These things start actualizing in front of them. And when they come back, their thinking's changed. They make shifts. And one of the major shifts that I love this particular session, it's toward the end of the program, is when we go into responsibility. People have different perceptions of what is responsibility, but we help clients to understand that by taking responsibility, you actually empower yourself and you actually become free. Whereas what a lot of people do is we make excuses as to why this didn't go right for me. So it's because of this that didn't go right. Or I was never meant to get that job anyway. So I justify my position, but I haven't taken responsibility. Or I'll blame somebody else. It's because of my wife that I can't go to the gym every day. Or it's because of this person that I can't do that. So we're either blaming or we're justifying instead of taking responsibility. When clients take responsibility, that is complete liberation and freedom that clients experience.
Okay, so it's a move away from this external concern that I'm not achieving because of some external force, when in fact it's internal, and you help them uncover that it's internal and what their own strengths are and what they're capable of doing.
Absolutely. In fact, in the first session, I make it very clear to clients that what's within your realm of control is not to change other people. You cannot change your children, you cannot change your spouse, you cannot change any human being. What you can do is you can change yourself, and you can change the way you deal with things. Majority of our problems stem from the fact that we are unhappy about certain things that others do. So it might be altering our perception. It might be that person has chosen to be miserable about a certain thing. Now, why am I carrying a load for that person? If a person has chosen to be negative, or if a person has chosen to be, given up on life, and it's rubbing onto me, we share the same space or something, I don't need to carry that person's burden. I don't need to walk with that as though it's my issue to deal with. I cannot force that person to change. Many times you'll hear you're involved in mediation or in conflict situations, why can't that person do things this way? Why can't that one do things that way? Nobody can do things in any way. Even the greatest of people, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, couldn't change people. He delivered the message in a beautiful way, but he couldn't change people. Change comes from within. And Allah will help you through the process, but you've got to start with yourself.
Okay, probably an appropriate time for another break. Viewers, please stay tuned. Come back after the break and we'll continue. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Welcome back again to the last part of our session this evening, and our apologies again. We're having a problem with the telephone line, so we can't invite you to call in this evening, unfortunately, but inshallah we can get Mr. Khalid Wouda in another day perhaps to answer the questions. Very important. Obviously, you've spoken about it, you've spoken a bit about the training, but can you tell us a bit more about what can someone get out of coaching, or what can they use life coaching for?
What they can come out with is an extremely powerful process of self-development. And this aids every single area of one's life. They can choose to start in 1 or 2 or 3 areas. We don't advise that people start in too many areas at the same time. So the maximum I would I would advise clients, or I would allow clients to work with, is 3 areas. It becomes too overwhelming. But people who just work on one goal within one area. So if somebody chooses to work on a career goal, through that process, we uncover beliefs which cross over all of those areas that we spoke about earlier: finance, family, social life, relationships. And once those pins of limiting beliefs start getting knocked out, we then clear the way. Now what happens is the client stands and the clients can see much clearer than before. Those limiting beliefs were obstructing their view. Now they can see from a much clearer perspective. They've got many more options. Now they can choose and they can make better informed decisions. By the client making those decisions themselves, this for a coach is one of the ultimate goals, because that's an empowered choice now. The client's made the choice. They've achieved success through that choice. That builds more confidence. Many times clients come to me and their confidence is very low. Their self-esteem might be very low. And through discussion, we uncover where exactly these things have happened. Majority of cases, the vast majority of cases, is when people are growing up, when they're kids. So we trace a lot of limiting beliefs back to when people are children. The things that their parents most likely have said to them, or a person of influence in their life has said to them. Most beliefs come from what we're told. And this is quite, when I studied this, it didn't quite gel, but when I saw it take place and I questioned my own belief set, only then did I realize how much we pass on to those around us, especially with children. So if anyone's got kids, take a moment to think about the things you say around your kids. You might deem it to be irrelevant at the time, or it's something you might have said in a fit of anger, or it's something that you just said, but as an effect that it's had on your child. And it's gone into that sponge that is the child's brain. At some point, it might start developing into a belief. Allah forbid, at some point it becomes a conviction where the child now has issues in terms of dealing with their own confidence and their self-esteem. So be very, very careful in terms of what you say. When we did a parenting workshop a few months ago, I focused specifically on parenting beliefs and where they've developed and the type of beliefs you've picked up from your parents. And what are the types of beliefs that you are passing on to your kids? It could be a simple statement. One of my clients, as a child, was told they're never going to amount to anything. It's something casual. I'm not sure if those were the exact words, or you're never going to amount to anything, or you're never going to achieve anything in life. This stuck with the client. Yeah. The client's about 34 or 35 years old today when we did the program. We did uncover this and we eradicated it, but this had an effect on 2 major career choices for the client that they could have gone ahead with but didn't because of self-esteem issues and because of confidence issues. Now, something so insignificant, which would have been deemed insignificant at a young age, had such a huge impact on somebody's life. This is why it's so, so, so important. We tie this into a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he said, for whosoever believes in Allah in the last day should either speak good or remain silent. Honestly, if we applied this one hadith, we'd solve half of the world's problems almost immediately. It's so crucial.
Okay, so you've uncovered a bit about what the clients can expect. You talk about parenting. Obviously, it almost sounds as if you helping parents to realize that they are coaches, in fact, of their children, because that's what parenting is. It is a form of coaching. But what else can clients expect from the coaching program or from the coaching program?
So each one of us has a set of values that we've developed, and these are the things that we need to feel on a regular basis. We are emotional beings, males and females, and we need to feel certain things on a continuous basis in order to function. And these values can change at a particular point in our lives. Conversely, there's certain things that we need to avoid at all costs. So I need to avoid, for example, the feeling of fear. I need to avoid the feeling of insecurity. I need to feel that I'm loved. I need to feel that I'm a leader. I need to feel certain things. There's a whole list of values that we go through. We help clients uncover what their values are. We also help clients to uncover what the rules are behind those values. So if somebody loves me, how? How do they show, or how do I feel loved? We uncover those if-then situations, tell us what type of rules a person has set up, again subconsciously. And the vast majority of us have set ourselves up with rules to feel miserable more than we can feel good about ourselves. So we help to flip this whole process around and make it easy to feel good and make it extremely difficult to feel bad about yourself. We take clients through understanding communication, the process of communication, how misunderstanding works. We take clients through, like I said, we spoke about responsibility, and it's one of the crucial elements. Towards the end, what we do is everything kind of ties in. And there's a unique session where we focus on a person's life purpose. Every one of us, we know we created in order to worship Allah, as Allah mentions in the Quran. Within Allah's worship, how do we serve Allah? What is our purpose? You might have a different skill set to somebody else. How do you fulfill your purpose? What is it that is your overarching drive in life? What is it that, for example, when you look at the life of anybody, so who would be a role model of yours, if you don't mind my asking?
Sure. At my age, I'm not sure. There are still role models left. You know, there were probably many as I grew up.
Take, for example, the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah.
Clearly, by looking at his life, you can tell what his mission in life was. The thing that drove him by his heart, not the thing that drove him for money or for fame or for any other reason, but it was a pull that took him through, and he endured difficulty, he endured pain, he endured sleepless nights in order to achieve this goal. Similarly with people we have that we might look up to today. One of those I look up to is Malcolm X, one of my role models. And in order to get where he got to, there's a lot of sacrifices that had to be made. But you can pin his mission in life or his purpose in life down to a few things. So each one of us has that. We all have a certain purpose that we would like to attach ourselves to. We help people to align every area of their life with their life purpose.
Okay. Now, there are probably people out there, and I'm sure they wanted to phone in, and there's probably somebody there thinking, I would like to get involved. I would like to perhaps get Mohammed Khalid to be a coach. How do they start? How do they go about? Can you sort of final word to the viewers, tell them how they can perhaps get in touch with you, how they can get in touch with somebody else, if they're interested?
With pleasure. If somebody wants to pursue a career in coaching, and if somebody feels that you have certain skills, you're a people person, you have a passion for helping others to overcome or to develop themselves, then I would highly recommend the institution that I studied through, New Insights. They're based in Cape Town. If somebody would like to achieve personal change in their lives and go through the process, it is something I would recommend for everyone. It is every client of mine that's been through the program has achieved significant personal change and development in their lives. They're content with where they are now. They're happy with their lives. They've realized that they've scratched the surface of the potential that they have, and that there's a lot more that they can achieve in their lives, and there's no limitations to them. They've also gone on to help others. And if anybody would like, you're welcome to contact me. My email is very easy. It's info@topbranch, info@topbranch.co.za. I'll gladly take any questions which we couldn't take because of the phone lines. You're more than welcome to contact me.
Mohammed Khalid, Jazakallah khair for coming onto this program, and I certainly learned a lot about coaching. I had a vague idea of what coaching is. I know a lot more now. Viewers, you'll certainly agree with me. It was enlightening. Please join us again next week and the week thereafter, and inshallah we'll call Mohammed Khalid in another day, and perhaps the phones will be working then and you'd be able to call in with your questions. So for now, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.